Zach Ellis, Commercial Credit Group.
Excellent. Thank you for joining the program here today. Of course, one of the things that we follow very closely at the Crude Life is small business. Many of our sponsors, many of our listeners are made up of small business. Many of the big company CEOs that listen to this program on a weekly basis listen because they want to know what's going on in the world of small business. Well, Mr. Zach Ellis is one of those guys who's helping people find financing during these times of irregularity and pandemic, if we want to get into some alliteration. But Zach, how you doing today?
Doing awesome. How are you, Jason?
Not too bad. Of course, like to keep my finger on the pulse in the world of small business out there. And, you know, the one thing about a commercial credit officer or a commercial loan officer, excuse me, I want to ask you about credit. That's why they threw that word in there. But about a commercial finance and loan officer, basically, is that you deal with a lot of, a cast of characters. I remember back in my food truck days and when I worked at a convenience store, my favorite part of the job was just the cast of characters. And I can imagine when you're dealing with finances, just everybody's situation is unique is what I'm getting at. So I can imagine you got everything from credit scores of 500 to 800 to slow pay to now pay, the story. Anyway, so what's going on today out there?
You're definitely right. There's an immense amount of people that we meet, whether you're here in the oil field industry, whether it's upstream, midstream, whether you're just a simple transportation company that's either hauling water or vacuum services or hot oil, or maybe we've seen a lot of customers that have strictly hauled sand in the past, and now they're transitioning to the reefer freight, hauling produce, hauling fruit, hauling meat, stuff like that, because a lot of companies now are noticing in this COVID period, what are we relying on? We're relying on trucking to bring the necessities that we need, and we're also relying on some of the fast food workers and restaurant. Again, more food. We're looking for convenience stores that are staying open. We're looking for Walmarts and the Targets and places for natural necessities. So we're seeing more customers diversify now than ever. But along with that comes different credit profiles. And I've had 4 or 5 conversations this week with separate customers that I've never talked to before that say, hey, Zach, I'm worried because my credit score is a 550. Hey, Zach, I'm worried because my credit score is a 610. And I wanted to get on the call today and let people know, if you're thinking about calling, call, because I just had a customer with a low 500 Beacon score that got approved for $768,000 purchasing Freightliner trucks and drive-in trailers. And that deal was approved in less than a week's time from start to finish.
That's incredible. I got to tell you, I just talked to a guy last week when I was down visiting Wyoming and also Colorado. And he told me some things off the record a little bit where his business, it went down 85% over the course of 45 days. So his billing went down 85%. And, he did what, of course, any smart, clever capitalist and, a guy who wants to stay in the good graces with his wife. He went and figured out a way to invest $200,000 into a new portion of his business to hang on to the other part of the business. And, I don't mean to make light of the situation, but there's some times where you just almost have to throw out logic in order to make things seem logical. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, 110%. We're seeing, again, with the diversification of these guys that were strictly oil field haulers that are now hauling the reefer, now hauling the drive-in, now hauling heavy equipment on an RGN or a lowboy, or they're hauling a step deck or whatever it is. Because at the end of the day, any small business owner wants his business to thrive, and he wants to expand, and he wants to do it fast. So when you take a logical factor and you say, hey, you know what? I'm in a position where I have, say, $100,000 left to make my payroll, to run all 50 of my trucks, to pay my insurance, to pay for, whatever added maintenance cost or fees or whatever is associated with that. You have to make a decision. You have to make it quick. And the one thing If any of you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see that I post every single day, and I post with information and trucks and equipment and stuff that's viable to this industry. Just so much as we're here for customers in the good time, just as much as we are bad. Last time we talked, last week, we're out almost every single week traveling and seeing customers. We're seeing customers just as much now, if not more, than we were before when times were good. We haven't had a decline at all in our approval rate. We've seen more applications from March to May than we have in the past probably 3 or 4 years history. It has just been insane. And we've been able to help so many people. I've just had conversations with guys that have said, hey, Zach, you know what? I've never found a company that would take my personal credit not being at its very best and maybe a couple of slow pays on my pay net, and they know that I need the equipment and I need trucks and I need trailers. Hey, and you know what? We offer factoring as well. We get the customer set up on factoring. We refinance this current debt from an 18% rate down to a single-digit rate. And we were able to help that guy and give him some capital so that he can keep his company going. And that's what people are truly looking for right now. They're looking for a solution to a problem and not a means to an end.
How can people contact you?
Yeah, that's easy. 682-386-7973.
Of course, I needed to ask you as we wrap up here, one of the reasons, we'd like to have you on is, you're not giving me a loan every week that we talk. I like to get an update of what's going on down in the Permian and what's going on in Oklahoma. Before we got on the air, you were talking about maybe popping over to New Mexico one of these days. So what type of, give the people a little bit of a preview of where you're going to be over the next couple weeks.
Sure. So obviously here I've been in the office all week. This week I will be in Oklahoma calling on customers. Monday's Memorial Day, but Tuesday, May 26th through Friday, May 29th, I'll be in Oklahoma, visiting Oklahoma City, Edmond, Tulsa, that area. And then June 1st through the 5th, I will be in Midland, Odessa, visiting customers in Midland, Odessa, Andrews, Pecos, and I'll probably take a trip out to New Mexico. So love to meet with you. If a phone call doesn't work, I understand money is a very sensitive subject, and it's a very intimate topic for a lot of people. It's important to know who you're getting money from, who can you trust, who can you build a relationship with. We've got more and more customers that we put on the books every single day. We'd be happy to give you a reference to anybody that we talk to, whether they're there in the Permian or across the entire U.S.
Well, and one of the things I'll just mention right now, kind of give you a plug if you'll take a free plug here from the host. But one of the reasons we have you on is because you actually give examples of stories of people that are faced with adversity and how a loan saved them, or the option for a loan saved them, or and sometimes you didn't even help them, but someone else did. So you had a solution to the problem, and so. Check out past interviews with Zach Ellis, and those stories are there. So, you're talking about building trust with people. One of the best ways to connect and build trust with people is to, hey, if they had a similar situation and here you are being able to help them out, that's going to help build trust quite a bit. So just to kind of, like I said, kind of validate some of that trust is a big part of money. And one of the reasons we do bring you on is because you talk about these real stories with people, and you're out and about. You're out, you're a man about the basin down there. We got to get you up to the Bakken one day.
Yeah, I definitely hope to make my way up that way for sure. But right before we got on this call, we kind of talked about oil prices. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe in the last 3 to 4 weeks, we've seen oil from a negative of $30 to now it's sitting at right at $32 or $33. So a lot of customers are optimistic. A lot of business owners are optimistic about what the oil field's going to do. But I think this time a lot more customers might play a diversified card in their business hauling, whether it's heavy truck hauling, or you're moving equipment, or you're out creating well site pads, whatever it is. I definitely think it's going to be a diversified approach. And just remember, CCG is an independent lender. We're not a bank. We don't have bank guidelines. We lend all of our own money. Again, we own a factoring company, so we can not only factor your invoices, but we can write loans on equipment that your bank might turn down. And our rates are competitive to anybody else's out there. And that's a huge, huge advantage.